Listen to this. Here we have a Bachmann British Railway Standard 9F and a Hornby BR Standard 6MT or Clan. Both fitted with DCC sound, the 9F fitted with Bachmann's factory fitted sound and the 6MT with Hornby's HM7000 sound decoder. As my regular viewers will tell you, I have always been rather unimpressed by sound, especially for the price. These are not my first sound-fitted locos, mind you. I have a Sound Hornby J36 using one of their twin-track sound decoders, but I will leave my thoughts on that for now. With the models idling, it becomes clear that even with just simmering away, the Hornby speaker creates quite a lot of distortion. Out of the box, it is also far louder than the Bachmann chip, which is funny considering all of the little ticks of the air pumps, occasional shoveling of coal, and the safety valve going off is all in Bachmann's standard and far quieter idling sound profile. So whilst the Hornby is louder, it quite literally has less to say. Moving the Bachmann 9F off, the abruptness of the chuffing is quite apparent, and the drain cocks only really stay open and audible if you're absolutely crawling. This is the fastest the model will go with the drain cock still audible, and this is speed step 9 out of 128. The playable whistle on the 9F is function 4, and on the NCE power cab at least, the function is a binary toggle not affected by holding the button down. This makes it so you can't effectively play with the whistle like it happens in real life. Function 8 though is a selection of fixed whistles, and some of these are more playful toots. Peeps? So it's not all bad. We've discussed how the idling sounds are automated to have some variety in the loop, but what other functions are automated? Well, if you turn on function 9, the flange wheel, the intensity goes up if the model moves faster, quite useful for when you need to make a run up to second radius point work. Should you decide to stop the model, the brake squeal comes on its own, and immediately after stopping, the Westinghouse air pumps start ticking over. Moving on to the Hornby HM7000 chip. I should stress that it is unfair to judge the loco in its entirety, as Hornby are quite clear that the HM7000 decoders are an all-round budget sound decoder which will fit into most of their models. Moving the 6MT off and... oh. Now, in anticipation for this video, I cleaned my track, and it still manages to stall. In fact, even when running at speed step 50, the HM7000 will sometimes just decide that working just isn't an option. This is equally true of my TTS sound-fitted J36. With a bit of coaxing, I managed to get these clips for the video. Apparent is how the slow speed chugging, when it works, sounds far less abrupt or tinny than the Bachmann sound decoder. Now originally I wasn't going to compare the two sound profiles directly, but by virtue of this video featuring sound locos produced by the two biggest double O gauge manufacturers, I can only isolate these products so much. The 6MT is actually using the BR standard 7MT sound profile as selected through the Hornby HM7000 app, but since the two classes have the same whistle, same cylinders and same chimneys for the most part, you can get away with this. Having mentioned it, the whistle has two functions. Function 2 are relatively plain toots, whilst function 3 has the whistle fading in and out as if the loco is moving at a great speed. Brake squeak and flange squeal are set, with flange squeal not really getting more intense when moving faster, and the brakes are just a set length, so you have to learn to time it. The drain cocks stay audible for longer, so if you want to live by the 10 rotation rule, those rotations would not have to be at a snail's pace. I'm quite impressed by just how deep the sound profile in the Bachmann 9F goes. A lot of it is automated, and the only thing that really does not sound convincing are the low-speed chuffs. My thoughts on the HM7000 system are, by chance, completely the opposite. When it works, the slow-speed chuffs are what is great about it. But the rest reeks of damp squib. The speaker has optional housings to best suit your locomotive, but I could not get the largest housing to fit into the tender frame of my clan. But even with the better housing, it sounds to me as if the speaker Hornby used for these chips have medium amounts of bass, little to no mids, and pour all of their energy into the top ends, which is why it sounds tinny all the rest of the time. Back when HM7000 was unveiled, Hornby made a big thing about the reliability of models when going over dead zones or filthy track. Their solution for this was to have a stay-alive system to be used alongside the HM7000 chips in a simple plug-and-play fashion. But I can't help but wonder if selling those stay-alives as their own separate product was a good idea, because the plug nature of the things means that the people who would want to take advantage of it would already own HM7000 Bluetooth chips. If these chips were to be the budget option and even the sound decoders cost less than £60 from the retailers, why wouldn't the chips have retailed for £70 instead, and come with the Stay Alive included? To finally discuss the elephant in the room, it would still be cheaper to buy an HM7000 sound decoder and a Stay Alive than it would be to buy a Bachmann, a Curascale Rapido, or, God forbid, a HO scale sound fitted loco. I bought both of these sound products featured in the video, the 9F and the HM7000 chip, at a severe discount. In fact, I paid less for the 9F than I did for all of my brand new mainline diesels. But that still doesn't take away that either fitting your already owned models with sound or buying a new factory fitted loco costs an arm and a leg usually. Here is where I state that my opinion doesn't have to be your opinion. I started as an analog user who was gifted a DCC setup, so I always view the benefits of DCC as mostly unnecessary. My opinion on sound-fitted models has not changed over the course of buying and running these products. I think sound is still as trivial to a complete layout as having lighting or actually opening and closing crossing gates are. But the sounds do add to the experience. It is just a shame that when a manufacturer comes along and offers an incomplete product as their budget offering, the well remains poisoned as to the viability, necessity, and enjoyment of sound. To debrief this video, I'm actually quite happy with my new 9F. I've never really cared for the idea of owning a 9F, but the sound does add to the model. A model I would otherwise just have owned for the sake of having a large freight loco, and not one that I necessarily like. I didn't review the HM7000, and by extent the 6MT, with the Stay Alive fitted, as I thought if Hornby deemed the decoder to stand on its own as a product, I must judge it as such. In fact, I have locomotives with the same wheel arrangement as the clan, who manage these points and those dead zones just fine, so why Hornby's products for some reason always tank the reliability of the models, I don't understand. It's a shame that Hornby don't seem to be quite there yet when it comes to the electronic bit of model railways. One would think that the entity spawned by the pioneers of 00 gauge models would know a thing or two about how said models function, but what do I know? Thank you for watching, and a huge thank you to Joel over on my Discord server for tipping me off as to the 9F's heavy discount on a German website. Without that tip, it would have taken a long time for me to air out my opinions on HM7000. The next videos will be further looks into the individual models featured in this video, so I hope to see you next week. Cheerio!